Hello everybody, welcome back to another Mech video. Today I'll be going over some tips and tricks I have for you on the new game mode Hangar Showdown, and hopefully they can be useful to you and you can win a few more games. But yeah, that's it. Let's get into the tips. Okay, so the first tip I have for you on this game mode is always start with a mech that is very versatile, meaning it can not necessarily counter everything, but it is hard to counter. So a mech like Eclipse is good because, surges can't counter it easily, and obviously any guided weapon, or as you can see here in the gameplay, Solus can't use its ability at all. The reason for this is if you don't do that and you start something like a Nomad and they happen to spawn a Hemlock or a Surge or anything that can stop it easily, then you are kind of doomed to lose the first round. And losing the first round is very hard to come back from. My second tip for this game mode is when the first or any round ends, you should try to line up your camera with the enemy spawn point, kind of like I showed right there. That way, if they spawn their mech in early, you can see what it is, and knowing what their mechs are is very important. So you could see, I knew they weren't spawning an Eclipse, so I knew it was safe to use Hemlock because Eclipse is really the main counter to Hemlock. So I always want to know if there's an Eclipse or not before spawning that. Also, it goes for when they're near your spawn point. You want to make sure they don't know what you're spawning, and really just the best and easiest way to do that is to select your mech, but don't click confirm. And if you don't know, your mech will still spawn the one that you have selected, even if you don't click confirm once the timer runs out. And obviously once the timer runs out, then they'll be forced to spawn as well, and therefore they cannot see what you have spawned. My next tip requires a bit more thinking on your part. For this one, it usually comes into play around the second, maybe, but most likely the third round and past. So what you want to do is you want to keep track of what both of your opponents have spawned the previous rounds. So maybe they spawned an Eclipse and a Surge before. Now you know that they cannot spawn an Eclipse and a Surge, so you know it's safe to play something like a Nomad, which like Surge can counter that. Also, it might be smart to use this strategy against some people, so maybe they know that you've spawned your Eclipse and they are thinking, okay, it's safe to spawn my Hemlock because their Eclipse is out. But when that happens, you can put something in, like if you have Redeemer, people don't expect you to have another mech that can counter, for this example, Hemlock, and you can catch them off guard with that very easily. Another tip I have is to, when starting the first round, when starting the match, you should click through all of your mechs one at a time. And the idea of this is to show your teammate, who's hopefully paying attention, but maybe not since we know how some of these players play. But hopefully they recognize some of the mechs you have. Maybe they see you have a lace wing and they know you're saving that for later, so they can save some mech they want, or they can spawn their lace wing now or their Eclipse now, and it can help out a lot for team chemistry and playing together, because after all, this is still a 2v2 game mode, it's not a 1v1. Now for my last overall tip, I'm just going to be giving advice on the mechs you should use if you have them available. So I'd say the number one mech for Hangar Showdown is probably Eclipse, if you have it, then I would almost 100% use it, even if you don't have mods and you're in the modded bracket. It is so useful against surges and especially hemlock, since it's free to play now. A ton of people have that, and it can be very useful. Next, I'd say surge, of course. It just makes sense. Great counter to nomad and hemlock if used right, and pretty good against deathwalker as well, which tons of people, especially in the higher levels, tend to use. The third mech I would say is good to have is hemlock. I especially say this because it is credits and many people have access to this mech. It's a great mech. Just try not to spawn it against an eclipse or a redeemer, and if you do that, then you should be good. And also try to get permastun, which means ability implant and maybe a duration implant if you need it. But if you have permastun against anything except an eclipse and a redeemer, then you almost 100% will get the kill. And for the fourth mech, I would say Deathwalker for sure is a great option. Not many people use Guardian or Outlaw in this game mode, so Deathwalker is great, especially pretty good counter to Eclipse, decent counter to Surge. Again, just try not to spawn it against Hemlock because that can kill you decently easy. For your last mech, you kind of have a choice. It's more of a wild card. You could go Nomad, which counters Eclipse well. You could go Lacewing, which is great for certain maps. You can get up pretty high where opponents can't really reach you. You could go Redeemer to counter Hemlock again, or you could do any other mech of your choosing. But yeah, those are the top 5 mechs I would suggest using. Or if you want to have more fun, then just do whatever you want, because this game is about having fun. With that is the end of the video, and that is all of the tips I have. If you have any more, and if you have questions or comments, you can feel free to leave those down below. And if you have any video ideas or requests, you can also leave that in the comments, and I will try to do it, as I am trying to upload more frequently now. Thank you for watching.